So I've been thinking about how insane it is, both us as Christians and us who are not Christians, that it's so easy to fall into the trap that we need to be without any flaws to be a good person to other people. And that trap comes from not realizing that we will never ever be sinless. And that is not to say just go sin as many times as you want, because you're never going to be sinless anyway. No, it's all about making the effort to be to have such high moral integrity that no matter how slight of a sin that you make, because the people who have the highest moral integrity, they will sin no matter what. And that kind of, especially in this time world nowadays, that puts so many expectations on normal people who are higher ups, or not to say to worship them as idols, because there's no idolatry. We don't want any idolatry of that, but it's realizing that when we put some people like that so high on a pedestal, that even say they make the slightest mistake, if I could think of a film, say that be some filmmaker or some celebrity, if they make the slightest mistake, they are deemed like some evil person. And that is and that is what's so I'm trying to find the right word, I guess twisted or flawed about this world is we hold people who are not God as God, and that when they make a mistake, we deem them as some abhorrent person. I know I'm kind of going off a little bit of a tangent right there, but the main idea is you will never be sinless, but you can become the best person you can possibly be in this lifetime and still be a morally good person. I know I mentioned about that in terms of people of this world, in terms of the commercialized, celebrities, the commercialized people in the film industry, that kind of thing. That's all dependent. Just kind of put clarify on that, but think about where you have been these past couple years and how much you've exponentially grown. Because to think that all your progress is tarnished from a couple mistakes that you make throughout 1 year does not mean that you will forever go down the path to failure. You just won't. It's about it's about knowing whether you've taken the lessons you've learned over the years and applied them to your life. Say lessons such as it's basic, but this is really the foundation of personal growth. I think in a worldly sense, people think it's cliche to talk about lessons of responsibility, valuing others, and kindness. It's so cringe. It's not. It's the basic virtues that makes us good people, and I think it's so easy to It's so easy to disregard personal growth in order to fit in with worldly customs such as, you know, watching explicit movies or just indulging in gluttony or indulging in alcohol or indulging in worldly music or music with not good messages, and etc., etc. Like, it's so, like, people see that as a sign of maturity or a sign of, you know, of like indulging in the flesh as a way to make up for, it's like an excuse to say, oh, you know, I'll never be sinless, so I might as just not even try and do whatever. Like, no, it's about understanding who, like, the value you hold as a person, and that how that value accumulates over time, whether or not you choose to grow. You know, it's up to you. And responsibility, kindness to your fellow brother or sister. My gosh, I know I'm getting the gears turning. I think this is like an important video, like, for me as well, because it's so easy to get plugged into the world and forget about what are the values that make us good people. Because of course, it's the kindness aspect. Of course, it's, you know, providing for others and, you know, providing service. But, you know, what else is there? Like, that's up to us to find out. And while we will never be sinless, it's up to us to realize how I am this year compared to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And just think about the trajectory you are on, because thinking about, like, introspective like that is not something everybody's going to do, but it is vital towards having this, like, peace of mind for yourself. Because I can look back at how I was a year ago and see how and know for, and if I'm asking the question right now, have I grown from a year ago to this year? I'm going to say yes. That's going to immediately come out of my mind. Because I could spend hours thinking about, oh, you know, last year I did, you know, I grew in this aspect and this aspect and this aspect, that it would get too complicated for this video. So that's just a personal question that you have to ask yourself. Despite all because the graph towards growth, I've definitely mentioned about this in a couple videos back, but the pattern towards growth, the graph is literally constantly shaking and wavering all the time, but there's a general pattern that it's going up somehow. There's a moral compass for where it's going. Because just because somebody's working hard doesn't mean they're always working hard for the right things. That's where the corruption, you know, goes in. So think about the moral, like, your heart. Where do you see yourself morally? No matter how many times you've sinned, because we will never be sinless, where do you see yourself morally? Have you grown, or do you have room to grow?